sorry for that, for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately, but I play with a wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I can sign philosophy.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of signs of life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Brown?
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, Lane, I see that from your book that on Thursday night when Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, that 8 bottles of champagne are entered as having been consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that at a bachelor's establishment the servants invariably drink the champagne? I ask merely for information.
I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine, sir. I've often observed that in married households the champagne is rarely on the first-rate brand.
Good heavens! Is marriage so demoralizing as that?
I believe it is a very pleasant state, sir. I have been married only once, and that was a consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and the young person.
I don't think that I'm much interested in your family life, Lane.
No, sir, it is not a very interesting subject. I never think of myself.
Very natural, I'm sure. That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower orders can't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them? They seem as a class to have no sense of moral responsibility.
Mr. Ernest Worthing.
How are you, my dear Ernest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating as usual, I see algae.
I believe it is customary in good society to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are the people you amuse?
Oh, neighbors. Neighbors.
You got nice neighbors in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speaks to one of them.
How immensely you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Right? Shropshire. Oh, yes, of course, yes, of course. Hello. Why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is going to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
Oh, perfectly fine.
Yes, that is all very well, but I'm afraid that Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It is almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I'm in love with Gwendolyn. I've come up to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you'd come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I really don't see anything romantic in proposing. It is very romantic to be in love, but there is nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why, one may be accepted. One usually is, I believe. Then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I'll certainly try to forget the fact.
I've no doubt about that, dear Algie. The divorce courts were specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
Oh, there's no use speculating on that subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. You ordered especially for Aunt Augusta.
But you have been eating them all the time.
This is quite a different matter. She is my aunt. I have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter, too.
Well, my dear boy, you need not think that you're going to eat it all. You behave as if you are married to her already. You're not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. But girls don't think it right.
That is nonsense.
It isn't. It is a great truth. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over London. In the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent.
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my first cousin, and before I allow you to marry her, you must clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean, Algy? I don't know anyone with the name of Cecily.
Bring me the cigarette case Mr. Wilde left in the smoking room the last time he dined with him.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say that you've had my cigarette case this entire time? I wish to goodness you would have let me know. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I wish you would offer one. I have many more than usually piled up.
Well, there's no good offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
I think that is rather mean of you, Ernest, I must say. However, now that I look at the inscription inside, I find that the thing isn't yours after all.
Of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times, and you have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. It is a very ungentlemanly thing to read a private cigarette case.
Oh, it is absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't. More than half of modern culture depends on what one shouldn't read.
I'm quite aware of the fact, but I don't propose to discuss modern culture. It isn't the sort of thing one should talk about. I simply want my cigarette case back.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone of the name of Cecily. And you said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt.
Yes, charming that she is too. Lives in Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algy.
But why does your little Cecily, who lives in Tunbridge Wells, from little Cecily with her fondest love?
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. That is certainly a matter an aunt may be able to decide for herself. You seem to think that every aunt is exactly like your aunt. That is absurd. For goodness sake, give me back my cigarette case.
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From little Cecily, with her fondest love, to her dear Uncle Jack. There is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt, no matter what her size may be? She'd call her own nephew her uncle. I can't quite get. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all. It is Ernest.
It isn't Ernest. It's Jack.
You have always told me it was Ernest. I have introduced you to everyone's Ernest. You answer to the name of Ernest. You look as if your name is Ernest. You're the most earnest-looking person I've ever saw in my life. It's very absurd you're saying that your name isn't Ernest. It's on your cards. Here is one of them. Mr. Ernest Worthing, before the Albany. I'll keep this as proof that your name is Ernest. If ever you attempt to deny it to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country, and the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her uncle. Come, old boy, you'd much better have the thing out at once.
My dear Algy, you talk exactly as if you're a dentist. It is a very vulgar thing to talk like a dentist when one isn't a dentist. It produces a false impression.
And that is what dentists always do. Now, go on. Tell me the whole thing. I may mention that I've always suspected you of being a secret and confirmed Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by Bunburyist?
I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you are kind enough to inform me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now, your explanation and make it improbable.
My dear Algie, there's nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it is perfectly ordinary. Old Mr. Thomas Carter, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Carter. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle from motives of respect that you couldn't possibly appreciate, lives my place in the country, under your admirable governess, Miss President.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
That is nothing to you, but you are not going to be invited. I may say candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
I suspected that, my dear fellow. I have bunburied all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, I don't know whether you will be able to understand my dear words. You are hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of guardian, one must adopt a high moral tone in all subjects. And as a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce very much to either one's health or to one's happiness. In order to get up to town, I've always pretended to have a younger brother of the name of Ernest, who lives in the Albany and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear Algie, is the whole truth. Pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Modern life would be very tedious if it were either, and modern literature a complete impossibility.
Well, that wouldn't at all be a matter.
Literary criticism is not my forte, my dear fellow. Don't try it. You should leave it out to the people who haven't been at a university. They do it so well in the daily papers. What you really are is a bunburist. I was quite right in saying you were a bunburist. You are one of the most advanced bunburists I know.
Bunburist? What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother by the name of Ernest. So that you might be able to come up to town whenever you like. I have invented an invaluable permanent invalid called Bunbury, so that I may be able to go down into the country whenever I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you tonight at Willis's, for I've been really engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
I haven't asked you to dine with me at all tonight.
I know. You are absurdly careless about sending out invitations. It is very foolish of you. Nothing annoys people so much as not receiving invitations.
You'd much better dine with the Aunt Augusta.
I haven't the smallest intention of doing anything of the kind. To begin with, I dine there on Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's own relations. In the second place, whenever I do dine there, I'm always treated as a member of the family, and either sit down there with no woman at all, or 2. In the third place, I know perfectly well whom she'll place me next to tonight. She'll place me next to Mary Flocknock, who always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. That is not very pleasant. Indeed, it is not even decent. And that sort of thing is enormously on the increase. If the amount of women in London who flirt with their husbands is perfectly scandalous, it looks so bad. It is simply washing one's clean linen in public. Besides, now that I know you to be a confirmed Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you all about Bunbury. I want to tell you all the news.
I'm not a Bunburyist at all. If Gwendolyn accepts me, I'm going to kill my younger brother. In fact, I'm going to kill him in any case. Cecily is a little too much interested in him. It is rather important. So I'm going to get rid of her. And I strongly advise you to do the same with your invalid friend who has the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. If ever you should get married, which seems to me extremely problematic, you'll be very happy to know Bunbury. A man who marries without knowing Bunbury has a very tedious time of it.
That is nonsense.
I'm sure your wife wants to know when your wife, Gwendolyn, or your wife want to know, Bunbury?
If I marry or a fine girl like Gwendolyn, I certainly won't want to know one.
Then your wife will. You don't seem to realize that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is none.
That, my dear Algy, is the theory that the corrupt French drama has been propounding for the last 50 years.
Yes, and that the happy English home has proved in half the time.
Don't try to be cynical. It is perfectly easy to be cynical.
It isn't easy to be anything nowadays. There's such a lot of beastly competition about. Ah, that must be on Augusta. Only creditors or relatives ever in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I get her out of the way for 10 minutes so that you might have a chance for proposing to Gwendolyn, might I dine with you tonight at Willis's?
I suppose so. You would like to.
Yes, but you must be serious about it. I hate people who are never serious about meals. It is so battle with them.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax. Good afternoon, Algernon. I hope you're behaving well.
I'm feeling very well. I'm blessed up.
That is not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you are smart.
I'm always smart. Aren't I? Is the word thing.
You are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I am not that. It will leave no room for development. And I intend to develop in many directions.
I am sorry we're a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call my dear Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her poor husband's death. I have never seen a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you like to stand here, Gwendolyn?
Thank you, Mama. I am comfortable where I am.
Good heavens. Lane. Why, are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them special.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers.
No, sir, not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I am greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers. Not even for ready money.
Oh, it really makes no matter, Algernon. I had promised earlier to Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
I hear that her hair has turned quite gold and green.
It certainly has changed color. For what cause I, of course, cannot say. Thank you. I have a treat for you tonight, Algernon. Tonight I'm going to sit down with Mary Farquhar. She is such a nice woman, and so attentive to her husband. It's a delight to watch her.
I'm afraid that I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all, Aunt Augusta.
I would hope not, Algernon. You put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he's accustomed to that.
It is a great warning. I need hardly say terrible disappointment to me, but the truth is I've just had a telegram sent saying that my poor friend Bunbury has become very elegant. They seem to think that I should be with him.
It is very strange that Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, it seems to me that this Mr. Bunbury ought to make up his mind whether he was going to live or die. This shilly-shally question is absurd. Nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy of invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind is not something to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I'm always telling that to a poor uncle, although he never seems to take much notice as far as any improvements in his health. I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me not to have a relapse
I'll speak to Bunbury on Podesta, if he's still conscious. And I can assure you that he'll be all right by Saturday. Of course, the music is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, people don't listen. And if one plays bad music, people don't talk. But I'll run over the program, my friend, if you'll kindly come to the next room for a moment.
Thank you, Algernon. That is very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful after a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think them improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German, I think, a thoroughly respectable language, and I need figures. So, Gwendolyn, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mama.
Charming day at this Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever somebody talks to me about the weather, I always feel as if they're talking about something else. And that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
And I would like to take advantage of Lady Bracco's temporary absence.
Excuse me. I would certainly advise you to do so. Mama has a way of coming back suddenly in her room that I've often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any other girl that I have ever met since I met you.
Yes, I am quite aware of that fact. And I often wish that, in public at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. For me, you've always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is constantly mentioned in the more expensive monthly magazines, and has reached the provincial pulpits, I am told. And it has always been my ideal to know someone of the name of Ernest. It is a name that inspires absolute confidence. When Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend named Ernest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolyn.
Passionately.
Oh, darling, you don't know how happy you made me.
My own Ernest.
But you don't mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest, do you?
Ah, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And like most metaphysical speculation, there's very little reference to the actual facts of life as we know them.
Well, really, Gwendolyn, I don't think the name quite suits me well at all.
It suits you perfectly. It's a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces visions.
Really, Gwendolyn, I must say that I think there are much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, is a very charming name.
Jack? No. There's very little music in the name Jack, if any at all, indeed. It does not thrill. It produces no vibrations. I've had known several Jacks, and they've all been more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John. And I pity any woman who is married to a man named John. She'd probably never be allowed to know the intrinsic pleasure of a single woman's soul. The really only safe name is Ernest.
Gwendolyn, I must get close to the months of cutting. We must get married at once. There's no time to lose.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Why, surely you know that I love you, and you have led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, that you are not indifferent to me.
Yes, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched upon.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable time to do so. And, to spare you any disappointment, I think it'd only fair to tell you beforehand that I'm fully determined to accept.
Oh, Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mr. Worthing. What have you got to say to me?
You know what I have to say to you.
Yes. But you don't say it.
Oh, Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling! But how long you have been about it? You've obviously had very little practice in how to propose.
Gwendolyn, you have been the only girl that I've ever loved.
Yes, but men often propose to other women with practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. Oh. What beautiful eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite good. I hope you always look at me just like that with those eyes. Especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing, rise, Indecorous.
Mama, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing is not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged, myself or your father, should his health permitting, will inform you of the fact any engagement should come on a young girl as a surprise. Pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be, it is hardly something she can be allowed to arrange for herself. And now, Mr. Worthing, I have a few questions to put to you. While I make these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
But, Mama!
In the carriage, Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mama.
Gwendolyn! The carriage.
Yes, Mama.
You will take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Rockmont, for first thing.
I feel bound to tell you that you're not down on my list for eligible young men, although I have the same list as Duchess of Bolton. We work together, in fact. However, I'm quite ready to enter your name should your answers be what a truly affectionate mother require. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I admit, I smoke.
I'm pleased to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A fair age to be married at. I've always been of the opinion that if a man desires to be married, he should either know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Rockmont.
I'm glad to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate flower. Touch it and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England at any rate, education seems to produce no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a high danger to the upper classes and lead to acts of violence across Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
Investments chiefly.
That is satisfactory. What being the duties expected of one during one's lifetime, the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position, but prevents one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about the land.
Well, I own a house in the country. Some land, of course, attached to it. About 1,500 acres, I believe. But I don't depend on that for my real income. As far as I can make out, the poachers and all the people who can make anything out of it.
A country house. How many bedrooms? Well, that can all be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple and unspoiled nature such as Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside out in the country.
Well, I own a house in Belgrave Square. But it is let to the year by Lady Bloxham. But I can get it back whenever I like it. 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham. I do not know her.
Oh, she goes about very little. She's a woman highly advanced in her years.
Ah. Nowadays, that's no guarantee for respectable character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I knew there was something. Although that can easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
I'm afraid I have one. I am a liberal unionist.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us or come in the evening at any rate. Now to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I'm afraid I have lost both parents.
Both. To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of the soul. Is he from what the writer of the papers called the circle of commerce? Or did he rise in the ranks of the aristocracy?
Well, I'm afraid I really don't know. When I said I lost both parents, it'd be nearer to the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am. I was found.
Found.
Well, like Mr. Thomas Cardew, a man of sweetly and kind disposition, found me. Gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a ticket to Worthing there in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
And where did this charitable gentleman who had a first-class ticket to this seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. Somewhat large, brown leather handbag with handles to it. An ordinary handbag, in fact.
And in what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew find you in this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Railway Station.
The cloakroom at Victoria Railway Station.
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I confess I feel so much bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the decencies of family living that remind one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I suppose you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As for the particular locality in which this handbag was found, a cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion. Has probably been used for that purpose up until now, but it can hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
Well, what do you advise me? What would you advise me to do? I need hardly say that I would do anything to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to obtain some relations as soon as possible, and to produce one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
I don't see how I could possibly do that. I can produce the handbag any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has it to do with me? You could hardly imagine that Lord Bracknell and I would ever dream of allowing our daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parson. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning. For goodness sake, would you stop playing that cast tune out? How idiotic you are!
Take a walk for our little boy? You don't mean to say that Gwendolyn refused you. I know it is the way she has. She's always refusing people. I think that is most ill-natured of her.
Oh, Gwendolyn is right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are engaged. Her mother's perfectly unbearable. I've never met such a gorgon. Don't really know what a gorgon is like, but I'm quite sure that Lady Bracknell is one. She's a monster without being a myth. Which is rather unfair. I beg your pardon, Algie. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your aunt in that way before you.
My dear boy, I love hearing our relations abused. It is the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people who haven't got the remotest knowledge of how to live, nor the smallest instinct about when to die.
That is nonsense.
It isn't.
But I won't argue about the matter. You always want to argue about things.
That is what things were originally made for.
I'd haunt my heart if I thought that I'd shoot myself. You don't suppose that Gwendolyn would become anything like her mother, say 150 years Do you, Algie?
All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does. That's it.
Is that clever?
It is perfectly phrased, and quite as true as any observation in civilized life should be.
I'm sick to death of cleverness. Everyone is clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without finding clever people. I wish we had a few fools left.
We have.
Really? I would extremely like to meet them. What do they talk about?
The fools? Oh, about the clever people, of course.
What fools?
By the way, have you told Gwendolyn the truth of your being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
The truth isn't the sort of thing one should talk about to a sweet, refined girl. What extraordinary ideas you have about how to behave to a woman.
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she is pretty, and to someone else if she is plain.
That is nonsense.
What about your brother? What about the profligate Ernest?
Well, by week's end, I will say he has been carried off into Paris and he has died of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they?
Yes, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow. It's the sort of thing that travels through families. You'd much better say of severe chill.
You are sure severe chill isn't hereditary?
Of course it isn't.
Well, very well. By the end of the week, I will say Ernest has suddenly been carried off into Paris by severe chill. That'd be good.
But I thought you said that Miss Cardew was a little too much interested in your poor brother Ernest. Won't you find his loss a good deal?
That is all right. Cecily is not a silly romantic, I'm glad to say. She's got a capital appetite. She likes to go long walks and she pays no attention to her lessons.
I would rather let you see Cecily.
I will take very good care that you never do. She's excessively pretty and just 18.
Have you yet told Gwendolyn that you have an excessively pretty board who is only just 18?
One doesn't just blurt these things out to people. Cecily and Gwendolyn are perfectly certain to be extremely great friends. Upon half an hour of meeting each other, they'll be calling each other sister.
Women only call each other that after they have said a lot of other things first. Now, my dear boy, if you want to get a good table at Willis's, you really must go up and get dressed. Oh, do you know it's nearly 7?
It is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
I never knew you when you worked.
What shall we do after dinner? Go to the theater.
Oh no, I loathe listening.
Well, we might go to the club.
Oh no, I hate talking.
Well, we might trot around the Empire Tent.
I can't bear looking at things. It is so silly.
Well, what shall we do then?
Nothing.
It is awfully hard work doing absolutely nothing. However, I don't mind when there's no definite objective of any kind.
Miss Fairfax.
What? Upon my word.
Algie, mind to turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algie, you always adopt a highly immoral attitude for life. You are far too young to do that.
My own darling.
Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression of Mama's face, I think we never shall. Few parents have any regard to what their children say nowadays. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I had over Mama, I lost at the age of 3. But though I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing she can do will ever alter my eternal devotion to you.
Oh dear Gwendolyn.
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mama with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination, and I find the simplicity of your character is scores of
Till Monday.
Good. Algie, you may turn around now.
Thanks. I've turned around already.
You may also ring the bell.
Let me see the carriage, Miss Fairfax. I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
A glass of sherry, lady.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, I'm going Bunbury.
Yes, sir.
I shall probably not be back until Monday. You can put on my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, and all the other Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
I hope that tomorrow will be a fine day, lady.
It never is, sir.
Renee, you are a perfect pessimist.
I did my best to give you satisfaction, sir.
Now, there is a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I ever cared for in my entire life. What on earth are you amused at?
Oh, I'm just a little anxious about poor Bunbury's all.
If you don't take care, your poor friend Bunbury will get you into some serious scrapes someday.
Oh, I love scrapes. They're the only things that are never serious.
That is nonsense. You're always talking nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
As a man sows, so shall he
And how are we, Miss Prism? You are, I trust, well?
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to have a short stroll in the park with Dr. Talswell.
Cecily, I've not mentioned anything about a headache.
I know that, Miss Prism, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cecily, that you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor is drawn from the bees. Mr. Worthing has not returned from town yet, I suppose?
We do not expect him until Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes, he often likes to spend his Sundays in London. He is not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. Alas, I must not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria? My name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion merely drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, at evensong.
I think, dear Doctor, I will have a show with you. I find I have a headache after all, and a walk might do it good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We may go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Cecily will read your political economy in my absence. The chapter on the fall of Rupee you may omit. It is much too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over to the station and is far as I can with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, Albany W. Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss, he seemed very disappointed, but I mentioned him at you and his prisoner at the garden. He seemed very anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Tell me to come out here. I suppose you had better talk to the housekeeper about the room for me.
Yes, miss.
I've never met any really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid you look just like everybody else. He does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You must be under some strange mistake. I'm not little. In fact, I believe I am more usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. You, I see from your card, are my Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not really wicked at all. You mustn't think that I'm wicked, cousin Cecily.
If you are not, then you have certainly been misleading us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you have not been leading a double life pretending to be wicked. Being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Oh, of course I have been rather reckless.
I'm so glad to hear it.
In fact, now that you mention the subject, I have been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that, though I'm sure it must be very pleasant.
It's much pleasure being here with you.
I can't understand how you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
That is a great disappointment. I'm very obliged to go up on the first train on Monday morning. I have a business appointment and I'm anxious. 2 minutes.
Couldn't you visit anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Well, I know, of course, how important it is not to keep a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. But I still think you had better wait till Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to talk to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
Your emigrating. He has gone up to buy your outfit.
I certainly run that shop on my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think you'll require neckties. Uncle is sending you to Australia.
Australia! I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Oh well, the accounts I received of Australia and the next world aren't particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid afraid I'm not that. That is why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission, if you don't mind.
I'm afraid I've no time this afternoon.
And then do you mind not reforming myself this afternoon?
It's rather quixotic, but I think you should try.
I will. Oh, I feel better already.
You are looking a little worse.
Oh, that is because I'm hungry.
How thoughtless of me! I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? I never have an appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
A marshmallow?
No, I'd sooner have a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily.
I don't think you should talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
And Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You are the prettiest girl I've ever seen.
Miss Prism says that all the books are a snare.
They're a snare that every sensible man would like to be caught in.
I don't think I should care to catch a sensible man. I want to go to talk to him about it.
You're too much alone, Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. A misanthrope, I can understand. A womanthrope, never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept, as well as the practice of the primitive church, was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. And you do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public occasion. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive, except in his wife.
And often I've been told not even to her.
That depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulture. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing,
Mr. Worthing?
we did not look for you until Monday afternoon.
They've returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Charles Boyle will grow up.
Mr. Worthing, I hope this garden of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
More shameful debts and extravagance?
Still leading his life of pleasure?
dead.
Your brother Ernest, dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, you have my sincere condolence. You have at least the consolation of knowing that you were always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. He had many faults, but it was a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he seemed to have died of in Paris, in fact. I received a message this morning from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
And was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, dear Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am particularly susceptible to drafts. Will the internment take place here?
No, he seemed to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I fear that hardly points to any very serious state of mind at the last. You would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the man in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion, joyful or, as in the present case, distressing. I have preached at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation and festal days. The last time I delivered it was in the cathedral as a charity sermon on behalf of the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the upper orders. The bishop who was present was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
That reminds me. You mentioned christenings, I think, Dr. Charles. I suppose you know how to christen, right? I mean, you're continuously christening, aren't you?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant usually are.
But it is not for any child. I am very fond of children. No, the fact is, I would like to be christened myself this afternoon if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
But have you any grave doubts upon the matter?
I certainly intend to have, but I don't know if you have any doubts about the matter if you think I'm a little too old now.
Not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion.
You need have no apprehensions. Sprinkling is all as necessary or indeed advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you wish the ceremony performed?
Oh, I would try around in about 5, if that would suit you.
Perfectly, perfectly. In fact, I have 2 similar services performed at that time. A case of twins that occur when the cottage is on your own estate. Poor Jenkins, the carter, a most hard-working man.
Oh, but I don't think it'd be much fun being christened with other babies. That would be childish. What? 5:30 do?
Admirably, admirably. And now, Mr. Worthing, I shall intrude no longer into a house of sorrow. I would merely beg you not to be too much bowed down by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! Oh, I'm so pleased to see you back. What horrible clothes you have on. Do not change Cecily. Uncle Jack, you look happy. You look as if you had a toothache. And why such a surprise for you? Who do you think is in the dining room? Oh, it's your brother?
My brother? What do you mean? I haven't got a brother.
Oh, don't say that. However badly we may have behaved to you in the past, he's still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are very joyful tidings.
After we had all been resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems to me peculiarly distressing.
My brother's in the dining room. I don't know what it all means. I think it is perfectly absurd. Oh, good heavens!
Brother Sean, I've come down from town to tell you that I am very sorry for all the trouble that I have given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. Our thing is coming down here disgraceful, and he knows perfectly well why.
Now, Uncle Jack, don't be nice. There's something in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, whom he goes to visit so often. And surely there must be much good in one who is kind with you and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, he has been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he has told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Well, I won't have him talking about Bunbury or anything else for that matter. It is enough to drive him perfectly frantic.
Of course, I admit that the fault's all on my side, but I must say that in Brother John's illness is purely painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering it is the first time coming down here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
Well, this will be the last time I shall ever do it.
It's pleasant to see so perfect a reconciliation. I think we might leave the 2 brothers together.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism, my little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgments.
I feel very happy.
You young scoundrel, you must get out of this place as soon as possible. I don't allow any Bunbury here.
I put Mr. Ernest's luggage in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that is all right.
What?
His luggage, sir. I've unpacked it and put it in the room next to your own.
His luggage.
Yes, sir. Important tools, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a very large luncheon basket.
I'm afraid that I can stay more than a week this time.
Mary, order the dog cart once. Mr. Ernest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I've not been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
Well, I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in a small suburban.
I can quite understand that.
Well, Cicely is a darling.
I won't have you talk your miscarriage like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why on earth don't you go and change? It is perfectly childish to be in deep mourning for a man who is actually staying with you for a whole week with you in your house as a guest. I call that grotesque.
I won't have you staying with me as a guest for a week or anything else. You've got to catch the 4-5 train.
I certainly won't leave you so long during the morning. It would be most unfriendly. If I were a morning, you would stay with me, I suppose. I should think it very unkind if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you're not too long. I never saw anybody take so long to dress with such little result.
Well, in any case, it is better than being perfectly overdressed as you always are.
If I'm occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by being always immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct and outrage in your presence and being here in my garden is utterly absurd. However, you've got to catch the 4-5. I hope you have a pleasant journey back to town this Bunbury, as you call it, hasn't been a great success for you.
Well, I think it has been a great success. I'm in love with Cicely, and that is everything. But I must hear before I go make arrangements for another Bunbury. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I really came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He has gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, he's going to take you for a nice drive.
He's going to send me away.
And have we got to park?
Yes, I fear that is truly a painful parting.
It's always painful to part from people who once been known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity, but even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell it to come back, Meredith, in 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
I hope that, Cicely, I shall not offend you in any way. If I say quite openly and frankly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. Oh, if you will allow me, I will drop your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to read it. Oh, may I?
Oh, no. You see, it is simply a very young girl's record of her own thoughts and impressions, consequently meant for publication. I hope that when it appears in volume 4, you will order a copy. But pray, Ernest, go on. I'd like to take you from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on and write anything more. Oh, Ernest, please do not cough. When one is dictating, one should always speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cicely, ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think that you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
The dog cart is waiting.
Oh.
Tell it to come around next week at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very annoyed if he knew you were staying on until next week at the same hour.
Oh, I don't care about Jack. I don't care for anybody in the whole world but you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
You silly boy, of course. Why, we have been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months.
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
And how exactly did we become engaged?
Well, ever since your Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, had formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And of course, a man who is much talked about is always, very attractive. One feels there must be something in him after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling, and when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or another. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear tree here. Oh, the next day I bought this ring in your name, and this is the bangle that the true lovers mark I promised always to wear.
Did I give you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Oh, yes, you have wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given you for leading such a bad life. Oh, and this, Ernest, is the box in which I keep all of your dear letters.
My letters? Hush, my own sweet Cecily. I have never written you any letters.
Oh, you need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well that I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week and sometimes oftener.
2. Let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, I couldn't possibly. It would make you far too easy. The 3 you wrote to me after I had broken off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Yes, on the 22nd of last March. You can see the entry if you like. Today I broke off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But why on earth did you break it off, Cecily? What had I done? I had done nothing at all. I am very much hurt indeed to hear that you broke it off. Particularly when the weather was so charming.
It would have hardly been a very serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you when the wind was out.
What a perfect angel you are.
You dear romantic boy. I hope that's your natural color, isn't it?
Yes, darling, a little help from others.
I'm so glad to hear it.
You'll never break off our engagement again, Cecily.
I don't think I could now that I've actually met. Besides, there is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
You mustn't laugh at me, darling, but it has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone with the name of Ernest. There's something in that name that seems to inspire absolute confidence. I could be any poor married woman who isn't married to someone named Ernest.
But, my dear child, do you mean to say that if I had some other name that you could not love me?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like the name Algernon.
But my dear, sweet, loving Cecily, I really don't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It is not all a bad name. In fact, it is rather an aristocratic name. Half of the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, if my name were Algernon, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear that I would not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector, here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in all the practices of the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh, yes, Dr. Tosville is the most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see my most important christening. I mean, on most important business.
Oh,
I shan't be away more than a half an hour.
considering that we've been engaged since Could you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposal in my diary.
Miss Fairfax calls on Mr. Worthing on a very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
He headed in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Fred, tell Lady to come out here. Uncle Jack is sure to be back soon. Oh, and you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax, I suppose one of the many good elderly women who are associated with Uncle Jack in some philanthropic work in London. I don't quite like women who are interested in philanthropic work. It is so forward for them.
Miss Fairfax.
Pray, let me introduce myself. My name is Cecily Carter.
Cecily Cardew? What a very sweet name. I think we're going to be very good friends. I already like you more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after we've known each other for such a comparatively short amount of time. Pray, sit down.
I'm going to call you Cecily. May I not?
With pleasure.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn?
If you wish.
Then that is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so. After you.
Really?
Please go ahead.
Perhaps now would be a favorable time to introduce myself. My father is Lord Rockwell. You have heard of Papa, I suppose?
I don't think so.
Well, outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is almost entirely unknown. I think that is quite as it should be. The home seems to me to be the proper spirit of a man. And once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so attractive. Cecily, Mama, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has raised me to be incredibly short-sighted. It is part of the system. So do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You are here on a short visit, I suppose?
No, I live here.
Really? Your mother or some other female relative of advanced years lives here also, no doubt.
Oh, no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed?
My guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prison, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh. Mr. Worthing never mentioned to me that he had a ward. The secretive of it. He grows more interesting hourly. I must confess, however, that this news does not fill me with feelings of unmixed delight. I am very glad, Miss Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you. But now that I have met you, I cannot help but express a wish you were, well, not quite so young as you appear to be, and not quite so attractive in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly,
Oh, pray do. I think that whenever anybody has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
well, to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish you were fully 42 and more than usually planned for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth, honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character can fall prey to the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history, provides us with many most painful examples of what I speak of. If it were not so, in fact, history would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Mr. Worthing never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I'm afraid that they have not been on good terms for a very long time.
Oh, that quite explains it then. Now that I think about it, I've never heard any I am so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid that I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it would cause you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to state that since Ernest proposed to you, he clearly has changed his mind.
If the poor man has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I will consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have gotten into, I will never approach him with it after we are married.
Do allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time to wear the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I'm glad to say I've never seen a spade. It is obvious our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I have tea here as usual, miss? Yes, as usual.
Are there very many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh yes, a great many. From one of the tops of the hills, quite close, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that is why you live in town.
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Flowers are as common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London.
Frankly, I don't see how anybody can survive in the country. If anybody was anybody does. The country always bores me to death.
That is what the newspapers are calling agricultural depression, is it not? I believe that the aristocracy are suffering very much from it at present. It is almost an epidemic amongst them. As I have been told, would you care for some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detestable girl. Would I require tea?
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar's not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen in the best households nowadays.
And that's Miss Fairfax.
You had filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I most distinctly asked for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor innocent trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt you were false and deceitful. I have never been deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. Certainly you have many other calls of similar character to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest!
Oh, dear Gwendolyn.
May I ask if you're engaged to be married to this young woman?
To dear little Cecily, of course not. What could have put such an idea in your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I knew there was some misunderstanding. The gentleman whose arm is present round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack?
This is Ernest.
My own love.
Oh, Ernest, may I ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens. Gwendolyn?
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean, to Gwendolyn.
Of course not. What could have put such an idea into her pretty little head?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name is certainly John. It's been John for years.
A gross deception has been practiced on the both of us.
My poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet wrong Gwendolyn.
You will call me sister, will you not?
There's just one question I'd like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, there's just one question we would like to ask you. Where is your brother Ernest at present? Since we are both engaged to be married to him, it seems to be of some importance to know where he is, right now.
Gwendolyn. Cecily. It is very painful for me to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I've ever been reduced to such a painful position. And I'm really quite inexperienced in doing anything of the kind. However, I must say quite frankly that I have no brother. I have no brother at all. And I don't intend to have a brother, not even of any kind.
Brother at all?
None.
Have you never any brother of any kind?
Never. Not even of any kind.
It seems to me, dear Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone right now.
It's not a very pleasant situation for a young girl suddenly to find herself in, is it?
No. Let's go into the house. They will hardly dare to venture after us there.
No, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
Oh, your hat! My hat! Oh, will you mention?
This ghastly state of things is what you call bunbury, I suppose.
Yes, and what a wonderful Bunbury it is. The most wonderful Bunbury I've ever had in my life.
Well, you have no right whatsoever to Bunbury here.
Oh, that is absurd. One has the right to Bunbury anywhere one chooses. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Oh, serious Bunbury. Oh, good heavens.
Well, one must be serious about something if one wants to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about Bunbury. What on earth you are serious about, I haven't got the remotest idea. About everything I should fancy. You have such an absolutely trivial nature.
The only small satisfaction that I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down to the country as often as you're used to, geology. And a very good thing, too.
Your brother seems to be a little off color, dear Jack. You won't be able to disappear to London quite so frequently as your wicked custom was, and not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct toward Miss Carter, I must say, you're taking a sweet, simple, innocent girl. It's quite inexcusable to say anything of the fact she is my ward.
I can see no possible defense at all, Jack, for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax, to say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to one. That is all. I love her.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
Well, there's certainly no chance of your marrying Miss Carter.
There's not much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
That is no business of yours.
If it wasn't my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's very vulgar to talk about one's business. Only people like stockbrokers do that, and merely at dinner parties.
How can you sit there calmly eating muffin when we are in this whole horrible trouble? I can't make out. You seem to me to be perfectly heartless.
Well, I can eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter was in my cuffs. One should always eat muffins quite calmly. It is the only way to eat them.
I say it is perfectly heartless that you're eating muffins at all, under the circumstances.
When I'm in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. At the present moment, I'm eating muffins because I'm unhappy. Besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
How can you say? Well, there's no need to eat them all in that greedy way.
I wish you would have tea cake instead. I I don't like tea cake.
Oh, good heavens! I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
But I thought you just said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you. Under the circumstances, that is a very different thing.
That may be, but the muffins are the same.
Algernon, I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't possibly ask me to go without having some dinner first. I never go without having my dinner. No one ever does, except for vegetarians and people like that. Besides, I've already made arrangements with Dr. Choswell. Be christened at a quarter to 6 under the name of Ernest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I made arrangements this morning to be christened with Dr. Choswell at 5:30, and I would naturally take the name of Ernest. We can't both be christened Ernest. That's absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I like. And there are no records whatsoever that I've ever been christened by anybody. And I should think it extremely probable that I never was, and so does Dr. Choswell. It is entirely different in your case. You have been christened already.
Yes, but I haven't been christened in years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That's the important thing.
Quite so. So I know my constitution can stand it. If you're not quite sure you're ever being christened, I must say that I think it very dangerous that you're venturing on it now. It might make you very unwell. You could have probably forgotten that someone very closely connected to you was nearly carried off this week in Paris by a severe chill.
Yes, but you said a severe chill wasn't hereditary.
It used to be, I know, but I dare say it is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements in things.
That is nonsense.
Jack, you're at the muffins again. I wish you weren't. You're too loud.
But I hate tea cake.
Then why on earth would you serve it up to your guests? What ideas of hospitality you have?
Algernon, I have already asked you to go. I don't want you here. Why don't you go?
I haven't finished mine to you yet. Besides, there's still one muffin left.
one. Style, not sincerity, is my Mr. Worthing, why did you lie to me about having a brother? Was this so that you might come up to town to see me more often?
Can you doubt this, Fairfax?
I have the greatest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the time for German skepticism. Your answers seem to me to be satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. His alone seems to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I am more contempt for what Mr. Moncrief has said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
So you think we should forgive them then?
Yes! You know.
I have forgotten. They're principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Who should be the one to tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Could we not both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as others. Will you take the time for me? Certainly. Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names, is that all? But we are going to be christened this afternoon. Oh, well done.
For my sake, are you prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
Please, me, you're ready to face this fearful ordeal.
I am.
How absurd the talk of the equality of the sexes. Where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
Oh, we are.
They have moments of physical courage of which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling!
Good heavens!
Gwendolyn, what does this mean?
Merely that I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Come here. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young and of physical weakness in the old. A bride, sir, by my daughter set flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin. I bought her once by a luggage trip. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture at the University Extension Scheme on the influence of permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any point I would consider it wrong. Of course, you understand that any and all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease as of this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I'm engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Rackham.
Pardon me, sir, but you are none of the kind. And now, as regards Algernon. Algernon!
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
May I ask if it is in this household that your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, resides?
Oh, no. Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is elsewhere at the moment. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did he die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. Oh, I mean Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Oh, Bunbury? He was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he's rightfully punished for morbidity.
What I mean, Aunt Augusta, is that Bunbury was found out. The doctors found out that Bunbury could not live, so Bunbury died.
Well, seems to have good confidence in the opinions of his physicians. I'm glad, however, that he made up his mind to take a definite course of action, especially under proper medical advice. And now that we've got rid of Mr. Bunbury, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person who tagged my nephew Algernon holding in what seems to be a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That, Lady Rackham, was precisely Carter, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married.
I do not know if there's anything peculiarly exciting in this particular part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements I go on seem to me to be well above the proper average that statistics have laid out for our guidance. I believe some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew in any way related related to the major railway stations in London, I merely require information. Up until yesterday, I had no idea there were any families or persons' origin to be a terminus.
Miss Carter was the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Carter of 149 Belgrave Square, Eston. Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, Lisbourne, Fifeshire, and B.
That is not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
Carefully preserve the court guides of the period. They're open to your inspection, Lady Rafford.
I have known strange errors in that publication.
Miss Carter's family's solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby, and Markby. A firm of the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I'm told one of the Markbys is occasionally seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
Extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I have also in my possession, you will be pleased to hear, certificates of Miss Carter's birth, baptism, whooping cough registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles. Both the German and the English variety.
Ah, a life crowded with instinct. I see. Although perhaps a bit too exciting for a young girl, I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. Well, as the time approaches for our departure, we have not a moment to lose. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask you if Miss Carter has any little fortune.
Oh. Only about £130,000 in the fund. That is all. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell.
A moment, Mr.
So pleased to have seen you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing! £130,000 and in the funds. Miss Carter seems to be a truly lovely young lady now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have any truly solid qualities, any that grow and improve over time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. Come here, dear. Yes, pretty child. Your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems almost as nature would have left it, but that can soon all be altered. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a truly marvelous effect in a brief space of time. I remember recommending one to the young Lady Lansing, and after 3 months, her own husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
Kindly turn around here. No, to the side, I think is what I want. Yes, quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The 2 weak points of our society are to one for principle and to one for profile. The chin is worn a little higher. Your style greatly depends on the way the chin is worn. They are worn high and with present. Algernon.
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Carter's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world. And I don't give 2 pence about social possibilities.
Do not speak disrespectfully about society, Algernon. Only the people who can't get into it to do that. Of course you understand that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend on. And I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no portion of my own, but I never dreamed of allowing them to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
And you may address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The wedding, I think, should happen quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I myself am not in favor of long engagements that give the people the opportunity to learn one's character, which I believe never advise them.
Pray excuse me for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Miss Carter's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent. And that consent I decline to give.
Upon what grounds may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may even say
speculating about your nephew, but the fact is I do not approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He's an Oxonian.
I fear there can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretense of being my brother. Under an assumed name, he drank. I've just been informed by my butler an entire pint bottle of my Perrier Jouet Brut 89. A wine I was specially reserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. He subsequently stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin. And it makes it all the more heartlessness. He knew from the first that I have no brother, that I don't intend to have a brother, and I never intended at all to have a brother, not even of any kind. I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
And, Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I have decided to entirely overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
That is extremely generous of you, Lady Cracknell. My decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here. How old are you?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit to 21 for the evening parties.
You are very right to make some slight alteration. Indeed, no woman should ever be truly accurate with her age. You look so calculated. 18. But admitting to 20 at dinner parties. You will soon come of age and be free of the restraints of tutelage, so I do not believe your guardian's consent is in fact a matter of any importance.
Pray excuse me for interrupting you again, Lady Cracknell, but it would be good to inform you that according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not become of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to be a grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. In London society, there are many women of the very highest birth who have, of their own free choice, remained 35 for years. Lady Dumbleton is an instance of the point. To my knowledge, she has remained 35 ever since she turned 40, which was many years ago. I see no reason why Miss Cardew cannot be as attractive at the age you mentioned than she is at present. There will be much accumulation of property.
Algie, could you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively. I couldn't wait all that time. I hate waiting. Even for 5 minutes for anybody. It always makes me rather cross. I know, I'm not punctual myself, but I do like punctuality in others. And waiting even to be married is quite out of the question.
Then what's to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
My dear Mr. Worthing, since Miss Cardew positively states that she cannot wait until she is 35, a statement which shows to me an impatient nature, I would beg you to reconsider your decision.
But, my dear Lady Cracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. Once you consent to my marriage with Gwendolyn, I will most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
Surely you know that what you propose is out of the question.
That a passionate celibacy is all that any of us could look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolyn. Come, dear, we have missed 5, if not 6 straight. Is anyone would expose us to comment on the blackboard?
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christenings? Sir, is not that a bit premature?
Both these men have expressed desire for immediate baptism.
At their age? The idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. Your uncle will be highly displeased if you realize that is the way you wish to waste your time and money.
Am I to understand which I have completely refuted in 4 of my unpublished sermons. However, as your present mood appears to be peculiarly secular, I shall return to the church at once. Indeed, I've been informed by the pew opener that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prison has been awaiting me in the vestry.
Miss Prison. Did I hear you mentioning Miss Prison?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I am on my way to join her.
Pray let us treat you for a moment longer. Such information would prove vital to Lord Bracknell. This Miss Prison, is she a woman of repellent aspect and remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am a celibate, madam.
Miss President, Lady Bracknell, has been, in the last 3 years, Miss Carter's charitable governess and valued companion.
Well, despite what I hear of her, I must hear it. Let her be sent for.
She approaches.
I was told to expect me in the vestry, dear Canon. I waited there for an hour and 3/4.
Prison! Come here. Prism! Prism. Where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104 Upper Grosvenor Street, in charge of a perambulator which contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. Weeks later, upon the elaborate investigation of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was found standing in a remote corner of Bayswater. In it contained a 3-volume novel of revolting sentimentality, but the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. The facts in this case are these. On the morning of the day you mentioned, a day that's forever printed on my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out with his grandmother. I had with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I intended to place the manuscript to work a fiction I had written in my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit that handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Workman.
Miss President, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in one of the cloakrooms of a large railway station in London.
What railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
I must retire to room. Gwendolyn, wait for me here.
If you're not too long, I will wait for you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect Dr. Choswell coincidences families of high position rarely experience and they're hardly consider the thing.
Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
Sounds like he's having an argument. I detest arguments of any kind. They're so vulgar and not convincing.
It has stopped now.
I wish you would come to some conclusion.
Yes, it's terrible. I hope it'll last.
Miss Prism, this is the handbag. Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one person depends on it.
It seems to be mine. Yes! Here is the injury I received through the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. Here on the line was a stage caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident that occurred at London. And here on the lock were my initials. I've forgotten that an extravagant mood I had in place there. The bag's undoubtedly mine. I'm so delighted to have it restored to me. It's been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Miss Prism, Mars restored to you than just this handbag. I was the baby that you placed in it.
You?
Yes, Mother.
Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Oh. Unmarried. I do not deny that this is a serious blow. But who has the right to cast a sword against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why does there have to be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there is still some error. There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Craft, I hate to seem inquisitive, but you kindly inform me who I am.
I am not sure that the news I have to give you will altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother? Then I have a brother after all. I always knew I had a brother. I always said that I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have doubted that I've ever had a brother? Dr. Truswell, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Oh, you young scoundrel, Algy, you're much better. Behave to me like a brother in the future. You have never behaved to me like a brother in all of your life.
Well, not until today, old boy. I admit I did my best. I'm a bit out of practice.
My own! Oh, but what old are you? What is your Christian name, now that you've become somebody else?
Well, good heavens. Quite forgotten about that one. Your decision on the matter of my name is irrevocable, I suppose?
I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolyn.
Then the matter better be cleared up once. Aunt Augusta. A moment. When Miss Prism placed me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
All that money could buy, including christening, was lavished on you by your fond and doting parents.
Then it is settled. I was christened. Now, what was my name? Let me hear the worst.
Being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall the generous Christian name. But I had no doubt that he had one. He was an eccentric man, especially in later years, but that was due to the Indian climate, the marriage, the indigestion, and things of that kind.
Algy, can you recollect what her father's Christian name was?
My dear boy, we were never even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
Well, his name would appear in the army lists. I would suppose, Aunt Augusta.
He was generally a man of peace, essentially in his domestic life. But I have no doubt that his name would appear in any military directory.
But the army lists last 4 years a year. These delightful records should have been my constant study. Journals, Malaya, Maxwell. What ghastly names they have. Markby, Migsby, Moncrief, Lieutenant 1840, Lieutenant, Colonel, General 1879. Oh, Christian names. Ernest John. I always told you one of them. My name was Ernest, didn't I? Well, my name is Ernest. It is naturally Ernest.
Yes, I remember that was the general's Christian name. I always knew what a reason for dislike of the name Ernest.
It is very painful for a man to suddenly find out that in all of his life, he has been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you forgive me?
I can. I feel sure that you're about to change.
Oh, dear Gwendolyn, Letitia.
Frederick at last.
Cecily, at last.
Gwendolyn, at last.
Oh, my nephew, you seem to be showing signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I finally realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.